Hello and welcome to SweetSpotDFS. This is a DFS strategy video for the 2021 RBC Heritage. Now, before I actually get in the video, I want to remind you guys there are timestamps in the description below. Also on YouTube, if you hover over the progress bar, it'll show you what those timestamps are as well. But just to kind of give you a little summary of what I'm going to cover, I'm going to start with a course breakdown. Try to figure out what type of golfer benefits at this golf course. And from there, we'll go into the sweet spot score and how I calculated it. That's going to lead us into time pairings and talking about the best groups with that sweet spot score, which is then going to bring us into statement games picks, which is a fun way to play fantasy. If you haven't checked it out, link is in the description. And obviously, I'll show you what that looks like on screen. Then we'll just get right into building lineups. Basically, I'm going to be looking at the bucket system as well as strokes gained buckets, and bringing up the optimizer to try to figure out some of the best lineups we can possibly make, or best golfers to anchor our lineups around. So again, timestamps are in the description below. Let's go ahead and get into this. So course breakdown I have up right away. RBC Heritage, Harbor Town Golf Links. I don't like to go hole by hole. I instead give you the opportunity to pause the video, read what I have for any description of the hole. Maybe it's helpful for you guys, maybe it's not. What I like to do is basically give you the summary of what when I did this course breakdown, what I saw. From what I could tell, this isn't going to favor one shot shape or another. This course is very tight, and I'm sure you've heard this across the industry if you've watched other videos. It's very tree lined. And it's not uncommon for a lot of these courses on the tour to be tree lined, but these ones have hanging limbs that go into the fairway, so it matters where your placement is off the fairway. Otherwise, you're going to have to manufacture shots. So obviously, what would seem like a good drive in the fairway might not be. I would say course history matters, but we found out yesterday throughout the course history buckets that the number one bucket are golfers who don't have course history. So not seeing this golf course doesn't hurt you. So I'm not going to say you need a savvy veteran to play this course better than, say, a young rookie, or perhaps what would you call it? Let's say a tour pro that's been around for a while that has not yet played this course. So I'm not... It doesn't matter about experience. It doesn't matter about shot shape. What matters is playing smart golf, and having a good up and down game. If the golfers aren't hitting fairways and greens, you better have good scrambling skills, because the greens here are very small. A lot of the greens are actually protected by trees. I shouldn't say a lot. There are a handful of greens that are protected by trees, and it's just missing in the right spot. So it's about being patient. I do think I said this yesterday during, the results and target score segment. I think this type of golf course is open to any type of golfer, really. It doesn't matter if you're a birdie maker or a, grinded out type of golfer, a par saver, basically. I think it's going to benefit both. It just depends on how erratic someone's game is. So, long story short, I don't think this course really benefits anyone over another. So, from the course breakdowns perspective, we aren't really gaining much from it. So, just wanted to leave you with that. I know it doesn't really help, but it's a good way to understand. Play whoever you feel comfortable playing. Because it doesn't matter for shot shapes, doesn't matter for course history. Just go with your gut feeling. Moving forward, let's go ahead and talk about the sweet spot score. I have golfers ranked by sweet spot score on the left, going down. I'm not going to talk about everybody. We will go through some of these guys as we go throughout this entire video and talk about the sweet spot score that way. But these are your top 20, basically. Obviously, you can see it's 1 through 19 you can see on the screen, and number 20 is Billy Horschel. So number 1, Webb Simpson. He's number 1 in my model. And just to let you know what the model I added to this, I took what I did at the Masters, because the Masters was pretty good for the SweetSpot model. I'm taking the stats you see on the screen right here from column DE, so OWGR. I'm taking that. What I ended up doing was I'm trying to get all of these values for the golfers who are good in each of these values as close to 100 as possible. So your best golfer, I want to get close to 100. Some of these, they didn't really get that close to 100, and I'm okay with that. I just want to separate the good golfers from the bad golfers, or just who I think is a good fit at this golf course over another. So what I did, again, OWGR, for me, it's just a good way to separate the scrubs from, or the stars from the scrubs. But the rest of the stats will help the scrubs move up. And so I have POA average, because we are on POA greens. It's a mixed model, so I mean it's really difficult to say, but I don't think these are pure Bermuda. They're not going to act like pure Bermuda, but they're also not going to act like pure POA. So again, it's a hybrid, but I don't want to add Bermuda stats into this as well. I'm just going to stick with POA because I feel like that's probably the more solid grass to go with. So then I added that top 10 POA percentage. Obviously, your golfers that are good on POA. This basically will help golfers who might not have a good POA average, but a good percentage. You know, I want some of those volatile golfers to show up. Same goes with Pete Dye average and overall top 10 percentage. These stats go back to 2013. So I'm taking all results from 2013 to present day for, you know, every stat within here. And then we're looking at course history. These stats that are in gray come from the recent form tab. So it's within the last 7 weeks. I'm looking at their DraftKings average, their scoring average, and their recent form average. And then I'm looking at season-long bogey avoidance, birdie or better, good drive percentage. I added this one for this tournament because it's going to matter. Being smart off the tee is going to matter at this golf course. And then DK average season-long, as well as scoring average season-long. It's just my way to separate, you know, who I think are better fits at this golf course than others. So you can see Webb, number 1 in the model. Number 2 is Paul Casey. Number 3 is Dustin Johnson at 11.6. So Paul Casey at $9,200. A really good play, a solid play, in my opinion, this week. And a golfer I'm probably going to roster a fair amount. Sergio, number 4 at 8,600. So look at some of these guys. And Charlie Hoffman, 7,800, is above Cam Smith, Patrick Cantlay, Tyrrell Hatton, Daniel Berger. I mean, a bunch of golfers that are much higher on the salary leaderboard than he is. So Charlie Hoffman, to me, probably the best value in this field, especially when it comes to the sweet spot score. Now, you can agree or disagree with how I did it, but for me, I'm liking Charlie Hoffman. I know my optimizer is going to select Charlie Hoffman quite a bit, and I don't mind playing Charlie Hoffman that much. He's been playing pretty good as of late, and I think this is a golf course that he can play pretty well at. And you can see how the rest of the golfers shake out. I'm not going to get too much into it, but moving forward, I want to get into the tee time pairings. Now, in the past, what I've done is basically I don't know if you guys can see this on your screens, but I do have a note inside the game number here, and it shows, you know, why some of these are highlighted and why some of them are not. I kind of went away with that. I do want to keep the note there in case I ever come back to it, but for this tournament, I did not add it. Instead, what I'm going to do is, if the sweet spot score for all 3 golfers in a group is 100 or less, I have marked it green. Now, if it's under 50, it's a darker green. If it's under 100, it's a lighter green. Anything that's yellow, because we will be talking about some golfers with yellow highlights to it, those are under 150. And there's good reason to talk about that, because this tournament, for whatever reason, they put a lot of good golfers, like 2 golfers. Let's say, here, I'll show you an example. Here's a good one right here. So this group of Daniel Berger, Patton Kizzire, and Bryce Garnett. Now, Berger and Kizzire actually rate out really well on the sweet spot model, and then you have Bryce Garnett, who is 105 on the model. So he's in the bottom 2/3. Whereas the other two guys are in the top top third, sorry. So seeing that's kind of interesting. You know, you have a group like Dustin Johnson, Will Zalatoris, and Billy Horschel. Those guys obviously super good. Their numbers really low, under 50. It equals 34. But then you have something like this, and you have it all the way through. I mean, there are a bunch of groups that have this higher ranked golfer with too low ranked, and that's just on the SweetSpot model. I get it. There are reasons that this tournament put it this way, but for me, it's just weird because two golfers are good, right? Like I'm thinking two golfers are good fits for this golf course based off the SweetSpot score, and they're ended up being paired with someone just out of their league, kind of. So anyways, we'll talk about those. But the first group, Charlie Hoffman, Chase Seifert, and Doug Gim. I like all three of these guys. I think you could select any of them. I might just go with, if I'm anchoring lineups, I might just select two of these guys. If I'm saying, let's say if I play Charlie Hoffman in 30% of my lineups, maybe 10% has Chase in it, 10% has Doug Gim in it. And then the other 10% has neither of them, just in case they don't do well. But this group altogether, I like it quite a bit. So not a bad way to begin. And for first round leaders, good chance that the golfer might come out of this group. I'm not a first round leader expert, so don't tail me on that. But for me, I think it's not terrible. Going down, we don't get to the next group until we get to Siwoo Kim, Zach Johnson, and Charles Howell III. I believe their number just barely over 100, 117. It ends up equaling out, so it's pretty close. I don't care one way or another. Siwoo Kim is a Pete Dye specialist, so I don't mind Siwoo Kim, and I don't mind Zach Johnson, but I don't know how I feel about Charles Howell III. And really, Zach Johnson and Charles Howell III's ranking isn't too far off each other, so why I like one over the other, I mean, it's just personal preference, but yeah, I don't care for CH3 whatsoever. He's a good, bogey avoider, but I don't know. He's never really a good DraftKings player. He doesn't score a lot of points, but he can avoid bogey, so maybe not a terrible play. We get to a marquee group in the morning here with Dustin Johnson, Will Zalatoris, and Billy Horschel. And I think all three of them, I mean, it's a no-brainer. They're all really good golfers. I don't mind any of them here. I'm probably more bullish on Will Zalatoris than I am on Dustin Johnson or Billy Horschel. I really don't know how I feel about Billy Horschel. He kind of had a poor Masters performance. Did make the cut, but really just tailed off with his last two rounds. Zalatoris obviously coming off a second place finish, and Dustin Johnson missed a cut. But once we get into the bucket system, I'll show you that missing cuts aren't a terrible thing here. Or missing a cut before entering this tournament is not a terrible thing. But yeah, I'm more bullish on Zalatoris than the other two, but still not bad. Then we get some yellow groups here. I like Berger, and paired with Patton Kizzire at 6,500. I mean, he's 39th in my model, and he's at $6,500. That's probably, I don't know, 80th, in like 70th to 80th on the salary leaderboard. So there's a huge disparity. So that's another good value. Charlie Hoffman, we just talked about being a good value. I think Patton Kizzire is a pretty good value here. And I wouldn't mind pairing him up with Daniel Berger in some of my lineups. Bryce Cornett, I'm kind of lukewarm on. I don't really care too much. I think it's doable. I think you could play him and not have an issue with it. Weird to see that he doesn't have a value. Usually it goes by DraftKings points. And it's blank for whatever reason. I wonder if I accidentally deleted that or if he just doesn't have any. Like DraftKings didn't show it, but whatever. The group after that, Tommy Fleetwood, Rory Sabatini, Chesson Hadley. I actually don't mind any of these guys. I think they could be sneaky plays. And there is a chance that we see one of these guys in the optimal lineup. It'd probably be, I think, Hadley or Sabatini, but I wouldn't sleep on Tommy Fleetwood. I will say this, I'm not a huge proponent of playing any golfer that has a 5 in any of the bucket scores, especially someone like Tommy Fleetwood at his 8,800 price tag. I'm probably going to scale back my ownership on Fleetwood, but I'm not going to fade him completely. But a decent group. I like it. And then we start our afternoon tee times. And they start with Russell Henley, Christian Bezuidenhout, Matthew NeSmith. I think this is a pretty good group. And if they all can find their ball striking grooves, I think they're all really known for their ball striking. Well, maybe not Bezuidenhout, but the other two, NeSmith and Henley. If they can feed off each other, I think this is a good group to tail behind. One of the first groups off in the afternoon, meaning they'll probably be one of the first groups off in the morning for the next round, and I do think that's going to help them quite a bit. So if there was a group to tail, that's not a bad one to do. Next group is Abraham Ancer, Lee Westwood, and Patrick Rogers. Now, if it wasn't for Patrick Rogers and say Russell Henley was in this group, all three of the guys would equal up under 100. But of course, Rogers is at 102, meaning this group is a little... I'm only mentioning it because of how good Abraham Ancer and Lee Westwood's scores are. I like those two golfers. And it is, I mean, they both play in the Masters, not together, but I think it's not a terrible play, either of them. I like them both. I just don't like that they're paired with Patrick Rogers. Maybe it boosts Patrick Rogers' value a little bit, but I think it's actually going to take away from these two, if I'm going to be completely honest. So temper your expectations, but I do like Ancer and I do like Westwood this week. Going down a little bit, Cameron Smith, Sebastian Munoz, and Tyler Duncan are in another group. And other than Duncan, this is another one of those groups where I like Smith, I like Munoz, but I don't like Duncan. Duncan really hasn't been doing much. He's 95th in the model, but Smith is 7th and Munoz is 36th. I don't know if this is a really good course for Munoz. He is a birdie maker. I did say that this type of tournament or this golf course is open to all types of golfers, but I kind of think Sebastian's a bit too aggressive, and I guess I don't really like his chances. You know, I like him in general to go low at some of the at most golf courses, but this isn't a golf course you really can go that low on. It's about managing your miss and playing smart, and I don't know if that's in Munoz's wheelhouse. Cam Smith, I think a really good player, but I kind of echo the same sentiment that I do for Munoz. So maybe a group, now that I've talked about it, I kind of want to stay away from. We'll see. Next group is the first green group, and that's Kevin Na, Mackenzie Hughes, and Dylan Fratelli. Like I said, I'm trying to stay away from 5s or 6s in any of the bucket scores. The fact that Kevin Na is a strokes gained bucket 5, Mackenzie Hughes is a 5 and a 6 for course history and last year buckets, and Dylan Fratelli is a 5 in the strokes gained buckets. I never play more than 1-5 usually in any of my lineups, and I'm not going to make an exception for any of these guys. So for me, I guess it's a full fade. Like, I don't think I'm going to play any of these guys. Maybe Na. I mean, I'm going to have a little bit of FOMO when it comes to Na and Fratelli, but it's not going to be a lot. I think I'm probably going to own them in less than 5% of my lineups. So I just don't like it. The best group in the field would be Webb Simpson, Paul Casey, and Corey Connors. You can see how well those guys have ranked that are ranked. We have the number 1 guy in my model, the number 2 guy in my model, and then Corey Connors is 19th. One thing that I'm kind of leery on is that Paul Casey and Corey Connors are both course history 5s. And again, I don't want to play multiple 5s in a lineup. So I don't think I'm going to do that here. So I don't think I'm ever going to pair Paul Casey with Corey Connors. But if I'm being honest, if I'm playing Webb Simpson, it's going to be hard to pair him up with any of these guys unless I'm going to dig deep down in the 6K range, which is very possible. If you watch the optimal lineups and salary piece that I did in the preview, rostering 2 6K golfers is not a bad idea for this tournament. In fact, we see it quite a bit. And I think we've seen 3 6K golfers. Nope, never mind. There weren't. You basically want 2 6K golfers in 50% of your lineups and 1 6K golfer in the other 50. That's kind of how I'm going to build my lineups. That's what I saw. Either way, hard to roster all these, or, you know, a Webb Simpson Casey or Webb Simpson Corey Connors lineup. That's all I was trying to get at. And I don't think it would be that smart anyways, because as you can obviously tell, I don't want to roster a lot of 5 bucket scores or bucket scores that are 5s. Let's move on. The next group is Sergio Garcia, Patrick Cantlay, and Colin Morikawa. This group is really closely ranked under the one we just went over, but I really like Sergio this week. Cantlay was a little disappointing at the Masters, but that missed cut isn't that big of a deal. I'm more concerned about his recent form bucket. It's one of those buckets that just doesn't show up inside the top 10 all that much, and I'm not sure how much I'm going to play Cantlay based off of his recent form bucket. Colin Morikawa was the same way. Course history bucket's bad. Last year bucket's bad. It's probably because he's only played this tournament once, and I'm pretty sure that's correct. And obviously his result from last year is shows up in his course history. So between him and, say, I think it was Mackenzie Hughes that we just talked about, yeah, same thing. Either one of them can easily finish inside the top 20. Obviously with Mackenzie Hughes' price tag, that's okay. But with Colin Morikawa's, that's not okay. And I know, Colin Morikawa has, good odds to win this tournament. Like, obviously he's a world-class player, and he certainly can do that. But if there was ever a reason not to play him, it could be from the buckets. And most of his buckets aren't that good, if I'm being completely honest. So, not a play that I'm too high on this week, but obviously he's in a good group with Sergio and Patrick Cantlay. And all of these guys, very good ball strikers. So hopefully they can feed off each other, and this would be the type of group that could, because they're all really good at the same thing. Our next group has Tyrrell Hatton, Harris English, and JT Poston. Probably an underrated group. They're all of them equal under 100 when it comes to sweet spot score. And again, that's collectively between the 3 of them. But they also have decent bucket scores. None of them have a 5 or a 6. I think this is a good group to pair together. Whether it's Tyrrell Hatton and Harris English or Hatton and Poston. Poston has won this tournament before, so nope, never mind. I said that yesterday. That's not true. Poston has an 8th place finish and a 6th place finish. So both of his times here, top 10 finishes, and that includes last year in the June event for this, where conditions were much different than they are in April, but he also top 10 in April. So good vibes for him at this golf course and at this tournament. I don't have an issue playing him. And at $7,100, that's pretty good. Altogether though, the group I like quite a bit. Scrolling down, we have one of those groups that has 2 decently ranked golfers with one really bad one. Brian Harman, Will Gordon, paired up with Bo Van Pelt. I like Harman. I like Gordon. Obviously, I don't like Van Pelt. Will it hurt them? I'm not sure. But it's not going to steer me away from Harman or Will Gordon. So I'm going to go ahead and use both of them. Like, I have no problem pairing them up together, and neither should you. And that actually concludes the Time Pairings. I think that's probably the quickest I've ever gotten through that. But to be fair, the RBC Heritage didn't really pair up like the studs with each other. They did for some of them, but like we already discussed, we had a lot of groupings that had 2 really good ranked guys in the sweet spot model and then one really bad one. So there's probably more we could have talked about, but that's okay. We can save time. All right, let's go ahead and make our statement games picks. So if you haven't gone to statement games, again, a link is in the description below. I think it's a fun way to play fantasy sports. You just make statements, who you think, first of all, you rank your picks accordingly. So my 10-point pick is going to be Tyrrell Hatton over Matthew Fitzpatrick. That's my number 1 pick, or my number 1 matchup. I think it's actually a more difficult one than, I don't know. It's more difficult than just stating it. But if I were to go ahead and use the sweet spot scores, so I have the matchup here. Tyrrell Hatton just edges out Matthew Fitzpatrick. I do like Tyrrell Hatton here a bit more than Fitzpatrick. I think both their games are good, but I'm more bullish on Hatton this week than I am Fitzpatrick. That is my number 1 pick. Number 2 is Daniel Berger over Shane Lowry. This one's a bit easier to choose from. If you look at the sweet spot score, got the wrong colors. Daniel Berger's number 10. He's 10th in my model. Shane Lowry's 31st. That's the biggest discrepancy that I saw when it was going through the statement game picks. So for me, I like Berger much more than I like Shane, but don't sleep on Shane. He's a decent golfer. He could easily beat Berger, but I do like Berger's chances here a little bit more. And then the last matchup that we have, I kind of already went through it or went over it. Paul Casey, number 2 in the model, over Cam Smith, number 7 in the model. And I mean, it's pretty close, but I like Paul. Like, I trust Paul Casey more than I do Cameron Smith. So obviously Paul Casey's here. And if you are playing this, I'm going to give you some easy points here. Obviously, we went over past results and target score. We kind of already assumed it was going to be somewhere between 11 under to 14 under. So when we go to overall tournament tournament winner for hit the score, we're going to choose this under 17.5. And that's probably going to be our number, our 10-point pick. And then also the cut here is traditionally 1 under. It's usually 1 under, but I could see it being even this week. So we're going to go ahead and do the under for this as well and move that up. So I think these are your 2 just automatic plays. But for matchups, what I already discussed, which for whatever reason kind of switched them around. I already forgot which one was up ahead. I think I have Hatton Fitzpatrick first, and then I think it was this one. But yeah, those are the statement picks for this week. Again, I encourage you guys to go check it out. It's free. You can win gift cards by playing regularly. So I think it's a pretty darn good deal. Go and check it out. Okay, let's go ahead and get into a kind of a recap of the bucket system. Let me go down to the summary page here. We didn't cover last year or last week, and we will do that here. I'll show you what some of those golfers are, but we did cover course history and recent form in the preview video. And basically, golfers with no course history coming into this tournament was your number 1 bucket. There have been 18 instances since 2013 that this has happened, and at least 2 times per year, we see this inside the top 10. Like, that's what the minimum bucket here means. So you want to select 2 guys who have not played at this tournament before, and the list was short. So I recommend going and checking the preview video out to see who they were. Will Zalatoris is amongst them. So probably good idea to play Will Zalatoris this week. Your number 2 bucket, the 40 to 60 range, and this is their average finishing position for this golf tournament. That's what course history means. Number 3, 20 to 40, and number 4, 1 to 20. You can see what the success rates are here to give you a little bit more confidence in playing them. I like to use the min maxes to try to figure out how many I should play. Again, the min means this is the least amount of times we've seen this in a given year. So you can see none of them say 0 except for your bucket 6, meaning you should play 1 from each bucket because it does show up. Now again, top 10, meaning 10 golfers, at least 10 golfers. Sometimes we can see up to 16 golfers inside the top 10. I think the most I've ever seen is 18. So 18 golfers inside the top 10, some of these numbers can get a bit skewed. But for the most part, the more stats you get, the more normalized the stats become. And I think it's a pretty good number from 2013 to here, meaning I think you're okay going with these numbers. But that was course history, recent form. Your number 1 bucket are golfers this is the last 7 weeks prior to this tournament. So this tournament would make 8 weeks in total, but the last 7 weeks, this is an average finishing position for each of the golfers. Not each of them, but obviously I'm looking at their average finishing position and throwing them in these ranges. So for those that have that 40 to 60 average finishing position over the last 7 weeks, that is your recent form bucket 1. Recent form bucket 2 is 60 to 80. So we're actually going, getting worse. But then we move to the third buckets, the 20 to 40, fourth buckets, 1 to 20. You can see 80 plus, not a good bucket. And then any golfer that does not have recent form, just go ahead and cross them off the list. We actually have 2 golfers in the field that have no recent form. 15 golfers that have, greater than 80. So a lot of missed cuts for some of these guys. But you can, again, see the success rate. You can see the min maxes. Our bucket 3 actually has a minimum of 2. That means, again, we haven't seen less than 2 times per year this bucket finishing inside the top 10. We can also look at top 5 percentage. Your bucket 4 has the greatest success rate of finishing inside the top 5. So, with that, it wouldn't be a bad idea to select golfers with that. So let's go ahead and get into last week. We'll start with last year. So we're looking at last year's finishing position. And if they fall in any of these ranges, that's the bucket they end up falling into. Your number 1 bucket, golfers who did not play. That kind of makes sense. Course history, the course history bucket, that was number 1, were the golfers who had not played here before. So just telling you, not playing with, not having course history, your number 1 bucket. Minimum is 1, maximum is 6. There are 35 golfers in that bucket this year, as opposed to 51 on average. A big part of that is because of COVID. Remember, there was no Korn Ferry Tour graduation. A lot of the pros from last year that played terribly or played poorly didn't lose their cards, so they were able to retain them throughout this year. That's why we don't see a lot of change when it comes to last year finishing positions of did not plays. Basically what ends up happening is these 2 buckets flip, just for the golfers that are inside them. So you can see for the golfers who missed the cut last year, their bucket is at 49. They have 49 golfers in that bucket. On average, there's 28. So again, these 2 basically flipped for just total volume of golfers in those buckets. I still think this is going to be your number 1 ranked bucket at the end of the day, once this tournament finishes on Sunday. And I do believe your number 2 bucket is going to be that 1 to 20 range. So golfers who top 20'd this last year, that's your number 2 bucket. Success rate is double of any of the other buckets. The minimum is 2. So we haven't seen less than 2 here any given year. And then maximum is 6. 18% success rate, almost 19. Almost 10% top 5 success rate. And then you can see top 20 is even better. Minimum is 4. So really you could stockpile, a lot of your golfers from that bucket inside your lineup. So let's go ahead and take a look. I'm going to go ahead and just filter out, actually I'll clear this and just look at our last year bucket 1 golfers. Let's go ahead and sort by salary from top to bottom. So just so you guys can see, these guys do not have a finishing position for last year. Under last year, they did not play last year. It's headed by Patrick Cantlay, Will Zalatoris, Paul Casey. Those 3 golfers, in my opinion, you probably want to anchor your lineups around. It's one of my, for me, this bucket it isn't that big. Usually it is, but there's, again, like I said, the reasons why it isn't that big is because of COVID. But when it's fairly large and the salary kind of drops quite a bit. I mean, we only have 9 golfers who are 7K and above. We have 26 golfers who would be in the 6K range. With that, I think it's much easier to anchor your lineups around some of these golfers. So I don't mind anchoring them around Patrick Cantlay, Will Zalatoris, or Paul Casey. I like to do a 30-30-30-10 ownership split. I like to anchor my lineups according to that. So for me, Patrick Cantlay's, oh man, I'm going to have to rethink that. I don't know if I want Patrick Cantlay I know I just said that, but he's probably going to be in my 10% lineups. But Will Zalatoris and Paul Casey, I will be anchoring my lineups around those guys. I do like them quite a bit. Number 2 bucket. Now this is the minimum of 2. You want to select 2 guys from this bucket. Wow, I didn't think DJ actually finished top 20 last year. That was kind of surprising to me. So what we have, actually, let's look at that summary. On average, we typically have 18 golfers in this bucket, and this year we only have 13. So that probably is going to, I think this will probably be a lower number. So minimum 1 would make more sense to me, and maybe a maximum of 4. Just because, although it's not a volume-driven bucket and it's more of a quality-driven bucket, having 5 less golfers, 5.5 basically less golfers, will change that that aspect pretty dramatically. I don't want to say dramatically. It's enough for me to pause and make sure I don't get wrapped up in this 2. I think it's going to be around 1. I think we will definitely see one of these golfers finish inside the top 10. But obviously, you guys can take a look at this. It's a bunch of really good golfers. Dustin, Webb, Daniel Berger, Tyrrell Hatton, Matthew Fitzpatrick, Abraham Answer, Sergio Garcia. Maybe actually but playing 2 guys from this in all of your lineups, I think would be pretty decent. I don't think you can really go wrong with that type of strategy. Now, I told you I wanted to anchor my lineups around Will Zalatoris and Paul Casey since they were in that last year bucket 1. If I'm selecting, 1 or 2 guys from here, for me, it's Webb and Tyrrell. Like, I really like Webb this week, and I like Tyrrell Hatton this week. I don't mind Dustin. I mean, he's getting overlooked, and his bucket scores look really good. He's obviously in this last year bucket 2, which obviously has a really high success rate. It's not a bad, a bad time or a bad place to choose from. But I am going to set the optimizer probably to, I'll probably set the max to 6. I kind of want to change that. I want to maybe I'll put it to 5. I don't know. We'll see. But either way, finding the top 5, pretty good. Finding the top 20, really good. A really good cut made percentage. So do not fear that bucket whatsoever. Do I want to talk about the other ones? Nah, I don't think so. I mean, the success rate on some of these aren't that great. So I don't really care to talk about these guys. Maybe this bucket. Sure. We'll talk about this one. Since this is really the next in line for finishing results. So these would be your 20 to 40s from last year. Success rates 10 or 9%. Of 15 golfers, this is like 2 more than average. You could probably find some good value plays in here. We already talked about Munoz. I didn't like him because I think he's too risky. But probably not a bad play, if I'm being honest. I heard some Lucas Glover love this week. Maybe it's a good time to play Lucas Glover. Same with Alex Noren. He's more of a ball striker, a plotter. Probably not a bad play. Corey Connors is the only guy that I color-coded as green. So he's obviously in a good group. Maybe it's a good reason to play Corey Connors. I don't know. Up to you guys. But let's go ahead and move to our next buckets, which was what would be last week. And this would, again, those who either played the Masters or didn't. And doesn't matter what your finishing position was at the Masters. Well, we'll take a look. Number 1 bucket for the RBC Heritage for last week results are the did not plays. On average, we usually see 90. So not a lot of guys from the Masters coming over this, or I should just say, because it's a fuller field, it's a combination of the two, right? So it's not a lot of people from the Masters coming to here, plus a lot of guys who weren't invited to the Masters can obviously show up here. We only have 51 this year, so that's a 40 less. Like, that's a lot. 40 less than average. These numbers here are also going to get skewed. We only have a 7.62% success rate for these guys. And obviously with a huge number like this, that makes sense. There's only so many quality plays that can come from this bucket, especially if a lot of these guys are either young or just bad golfers who could not qualify for the Masters. Like, that's obviously, a logical piece to this. But still, we're going to see golfers from this bucket. It would be interesting to see less than 2, but I think we're probably going to see 2, regardless of, the drastic number change between how many are in this year's bucket versus on average. But we can take a look. So let's open this back up to everybody. I want to see who the top price guy is. It's Russell Henley. He is your top price guy out of this bucket. Then Charlie Hoffman. I really like Charlie Hoffman this week. So for me, he's going to be one. I also really like Chris Kirk. Man, I thought his numbers were different than that. Let me double check this. So did not play. So obviously he's a number 1 there. Last week did not play. Oh, I didn't even add the last week stats. Or wait, this would be did not plays, right? Of course. Sam Burns, Kevin Streelman, Emiliano Grillo. Like, there's some good named golfers. Alex Noren. Yeah, I'm going to say we're going to see at least 2 from this. Like, there are some good quality players. Doug Gim. I like Doug Gim quite a bit. I know a lot of people out there do. Chase Seifert is also here. Yeah, this group is good enough where we're going to see multiple guys inside the top 10. Multiple meaning more than 1. So it can be 2, but I have a pretty strong feeling we're going to see probably around 4 golfers inside the top 10 out of this bucket. Looking at the rest of the guys, number 2 bucket is guys who missed the cut. So your Dustin Johnsons, your Patrick Cantlays. This group usually has 18 in it, but we have 37 this year. So that's quite a bit. If we were to take a look, number 2, again, guys who missed the cut last week. It's headed by DJ, Patrick Cantlay, Daniel Berger, Sungjae Im, Sergio Garcia. Now, if we're looking at the summary, we're seeing a minimum of 0, meaning there have been years that golfers coming from the Masters, and last year would have been the Charles Schwab Challenge, but golfers, actually, let's take a look. How many came from last year? So it would be this last week bucket here and coming here. What were our totals? That's what I want to look at. 36. So very small number last year. And so up here, I may have gone past that quickly. I have a totals down here for the bucket, and that's what the summary page is pulling from, is really just the average number of, this number here it's pulling from. But last year was even smaller than this year, like the amount of golfers in that bucket. And that's because basically everybody was trying to play as much golf as they possibly could once COVID came back. This was the second tournament back. So obviously those that played the Charles Schwab Challenge just came over and played this one right away after it. There was a 90-day absence, basically, like where there was no golf being played. So a lot of guys were chomping at the bit. And we had 36 last year. The minimum still ended up being 2. We had 2. But prior to that, the minimum would have been 10. Is that? Oh, top 20. Jeez, I'm sorry. Minimum would have been 5. You would have wanted to play at least 5. So I think this number actually grows to 4. So like I was saying, a good chance this could be 3 or 4. So this number 2 comes from last year where the bucket was its smallest. There were only 36 golfers in the field last year that fell under that bucket, when again, on average, there are 90. So this year we have 51, 15 more than last year. I think this minimum goes to 3 or 4. So I think we'll see 3 or 4 there. Sorry. I don't know why I got on that when I was talking about this bucket, but this bucket is a little bit larger this year than on average. There was a minimum of 0. It's risky. Perhaps we won't see any of these guys inside the top 10, but just the fact that most of these guys have really good odds to win the tournament, and you can see a very good pedigree of golfers fall into this bucket. We're probably going to see, 1 or 2 guys from this bucket finish inside the top 10. Our number 3 bucket are golfers who top 20 last year, and the success rate is the highest amongst all of the buckets at 18.84%. Weirdly enough, when we look at top 5 frequency, the best one was the group we were just talking about, 8.90% success rate of finishing inside the top 5. So if you're worried about like DJ not finishing inside the top 5 or Patrick Cantlay, actually the stats prove out that this is a decent bucket to choose from. So keep that in mind. I think it's decent. But for bucket 3, 8.7 would come in second. It actually has the highest percentage to make the cut as well, and the highest percentage to finish inside the top 20. So let's go ahead and check the golfers from this bucket. And really, it'd probably be best to pick your lower price guys if it's really, cut made that you're worried about, or top 20. But again, here at SweetSpot DFS, it's all about top 10s. And this group isn't terrible. I mean, we have 11 golfers. Is that correct? I must be missing some. Doesn't appear that I'm missing any. Let's see, summary says 15. These are top 20 finishes, right? That's what we're looking at. Who am I missing? Sorry about this, but I want to validate to make sure that I have the correct number of golfers. I only show 11. So what's going on? 15, 84 is where it's checking from. Column I. That's why. Okay, so is that the only one that's wrong? No. Okay, let's actually look at these numbers differently. It's always something, right, guys? Always something. All right, what are the numbers now? Okay, so we're back to 93 did not plays. Very interesting. Let's validate that too. Okay. Well, my bad, guys. That was kind of disappointing. But hey, we figured it out. So there are 93 in this did not play bucket. So we're all systems go. Minimum is usually 5 whenever this bucket's around 90. So definitely consider that. We can see 16 when it's usually 18. 11 in this bucket. So more than on average. Those success rates are still going to be that high. Everything that I just said, you can go ahead and retain that. But yeah, these 11 golfers, I think it's pretty decent to select any of them. I mean, Will Zalatoris is in it. I like Will Zalatoris. I like Tyrrell Hatton, and I like Webb Simpson. If I'm actually, doing that 30-30-30-10, I'm probably gonna anchor my lineups around these guys, and then fit in 2 other dudes with them and build my lineups from there. So that's gonna wrap up the last week. Let's get into the strokes gained buckets. And I'm gonna actually go through this pretty quick. So if you've been here before, usually what I tell you guys is we want to select, well, the buckets go from left to right. They're numbered 1. You can see what the number and like the number, whatever the bucket number is, as well as what the description of that bucket is. So your number 1 bucket, everything is positive. That means all your strokes gained stats are positive. Bucket 2, it's only positive off the tee and only positive putting. So that includes the negative approach and negative around the green. Strokes gained bucket 3 equals positive off the tee plus negative putting, which includes all approach and around the green, whether it's positive or negative. Strokes gained bucket 4, negative off the tee plus positive putting. Strokes gained bucket 5, negative off the tee, negative putting, and strokes gained where I have no strokes gained stats. Now, this week was weird. These stats come from the PGA Tour, and their putting stats, they did not have updated through the Masters. And I didn't take a look before I got on doing this video, but around 2 p.m. today, they still didn't have them updated through the Masters, the putting stats. Jim Furyk had putting stats, but he did not have the rest of the stats. So all of your off the tee approach, around the green, and tee to green, those stats were updated through the Masters. So Jim Furyk on that account did not have enough events under his belt to have, stats for that, but he did for putting. So weird on that. Likewise, Ben Martin and Robert McIntyre all had approach around the green, tee to green, and off the tee stats, but did not have putting because they had enough events under their belt going past them or through the Masters, but didn't leading up to the Honda, or actually just after the Honda. I don't know. It's weird. I just put these guys in the buckets that I felt comfortable doing. Jim Furyk would have been put there if, you know, the putting stats went through the Masters, because obviously the other strokes gain stats, they didn't have them through. For Ben Martin and Robert McIntyre, this is just guesses. They both have negative off the tee stats. I don't know what their putting stats would be. I'm just guessing Ben Martin has negative putting stats and Robert McIntyre has positive putting stats. Just guesses. But either way, it's not that big of a deal because those are buckets you don't really care about, that you shouldn't care about. And that kind of leads me into this. I do have, next to their name ID, kind of like rules. Pick 1 to 3 out of everything positive, 1 to 3 out of strokes gained bucket 2, the positive off the tee, positive putting, 1 to 3, strokes gained bucket 3, and then 0 to 2, basically for the other 2 buckets right next to it, and 0 to 1 out of this. So I wouldn't touch any guys from this bucket. And I plan not to. That is my goal. I should actually sort this by salary. And I should say this. It's not that I'm not going to play any of these guys. Like Ryan Moore is a decent play, but the ownership's going to be very, very small. And strokes gained bucket 5. I mean, if you're a huge Tommy Fleetwood fan, the golfers underneath him, perhaps abandon. Like, don't play some of these guys paired up with Tommy Fleetwood. Personally, I'm probably going to avoid strokes gained bucket 5 as much as I can. A lot of these guys, I'm probably going to have ownership of 5% or less, like maximum exposure. I just don't trust any of these guys. So I'm not, I mean, Kuchar, nah, Fleetwood, I'm not putting these guys together. And chances are I'm not going to have that much ownership on them either. Usually what I like to do is make sure I do grab 1 to 3 guys from this bucket. Basically, I like to pick 1. Let's do it a different way. So I told you the golfers that I'm going to anchor my lineups around, right? So Will Zalatoris was one of them. So was Webb, and so was Tyrrell Hatton. So those 3 guys I'm going to anchor around. How I'm going to do this is, if I were to select Tyrrell Hatton, I actually want to select a golfer from here. So it's probably going to be Paul Casey. So I'll put some Hatton Casey lineups together. Maybe someone from here. Maybe it's Sergio Garcia, and go from there. Now, Will Zalatoris, $9,700. Is that cheap enough to pair him with Dustin Johnson? Because usually that's what I like to do is grab one from, you know, at least one from these 3 buckets. But I want to select 1 to anchor around. And actually, if I can do a Will Zalatoris, Dustin Johnson, Charlie Hoffman lineup, I'm okay with that. And maybe I can find some cheapies down here, or even down here. Chase Seifert, obviously that's a cheap guy. And round up my lineups that way. And I don't mind having someone over there. Let me see what this ends up looking like. That's $29,100. So I have $20,000 to work with. That's just guys in the 6K range, right? So if Chase Seifert's there, so I have nearly $14,000 to work with. So I can grab some 7K guys. Say I do like Chris Kirk. Now I need to find someone $6,700. I don't like anyone in the strokes gained bucket 4s. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe that's not the guy to anchor around. Probably not. I do like Sergio. I don't mind that lineup. And then find someone $9,000. That works. This works. Go Zalatoris, Hatton. Maybe I do something like that. That's not a bad lineup. Anyways, what I'm trying to get at is pick 1 to 3 from here. Even Doug Gim is down there. Like, that's pretty good. And 1 to 3 from here, 1 to 3 from there. And that's kind of how I would do it. And these strokes gained bucket stats are built in to my spreadsheet, which are also built into my optimizer. So when I pull that in here soon enough, we're going to see what the optimizer likes. I think there was one thing I wanted to discuss. Let's see, strokes gained buckets. Kind of already went through the bucket summary. Yeah, I don't think I actually have anything to add to that. So let's go ahead and pull in the optimizer. So what I end up doing is basically put all my maxes to the numbers that I'm comfortable with. And a lot of these numbers do come from the min maxes from the bucket summary. So obviously when I said min max, I'm usually loading those numbers in here. I'm not a huge fan of setting my mins to anything, but if say I wanted a certain salary structure, I'll do that here. Let's see here. Let me go back to the summary and take a look at what I wanted to make sure I had. I want to say it was like course history. No, it was recent form 3s. So I think what I want to do is for recent form 3s, make that a 1. So I'm at least selecting one guy from that bucket. And I don't know, was there another one? Last week, there's so many golfers in that one, or last week 1s. I'm not too worried about that. Oh, last year 2s. I definitely want to put 1 or 2 of those guys there. So I think maybe I go 1. Run the optimizer, see what it pulls out. I think it's going to actually just retain the same golfers up here. Oh, nope. So we have Kevin Na. That was replaced. Charlie Hoffman's up there. Tyrrell Hatton, Paul Casey, Sergio. So I kind of already said a Tyrrell Hatton, Paul Casey anchored lineup, but having Will Gordon in there with everybody, that's pretty good. And you can see course history, the buckets, it selected 1 from each of them all the way to 5, and that's kind of a good omen because if we just look at the course history buckets, we kind of had that. We had 1s all the way through, but we had 2 for course history 1. Now, I have 2 for course history 2, but that's fine. That's okay. But it selected 1 of all of those guys. And then for recent form, we have 2 under recent form 2, 2 under recent form 3, and 2 under recent form 4. Is that okay? I'm thinking it is. So max is actually 2 for recent form bucket 4s. Maybe that's what I need to put in there. Okay, I already did. Maybe I just want 1. I'm gonna run this again. I don't know if I want. I'm trying to find the 1 button. All right. Let's see what it pulls out now, because I don't want 4 recent form 4s. There we go. This is a pretty solid lineup too. Hatton, Casey, Answer, Sergio, Streelman, Will Gordon. And so we have 1 there, 2 for recent form 3. Yeah, that's pretty good. Still doing the same thing for course histories. That's awesome. Last week, we're not selecting any 5s or 6s. That's great. Last year's, we're not selecting any 5s or 6s. I like that. Strokes gained. Are we not choosing? Oh, I don't have strokes gained buckets loaded in here. Here, let's do that really quick. I think that should be perfect because I really don't ever mess those up. But for strokes gained buckets, usually, yeah, 4, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, I like that. So let's go ahead and run that one more time to see if it didn't take that into account, if it will this time. No. So we are selecting 3 strokes gained bucket 1s, 2 strokes gained bucket 2s, and 1 strokes gained bucket 3. I like that. That's pretty good. So that lineup's pretty dynamite. I like that. One thing that I'm going to add to my lineup building, this might be a little bit of a headache to look at, but I'm taking the success rates for all the percentages of the buckets. So if we were to take, course history and take a look at what the success rates are, So you can see course history 3s are 12.61. DJ falls under that course history 3, so that's 12.61. So I did that for all of them. Recent form, last year, last week, and then ownership based off of salary. That's kind of my own blend of what I think the number should be. And then I average all of them out. I average them and then I times it by a multiplier of 0.75. I did that for the Masters. It's just a number that I like. It's giving me 75% of what that actually is. But maybe with a full field event, I could probably just remove that and get a better number. So you can see what that number is here. And basically what I'm doing with this is I'm going to set my ownership, my maximum exposures to this number. So I don't want to play more than 11% of Dustin Johnson. Same goes with like Patrick Cantlay, 9.7%. Well, I'm going to change some of this based off of their min maxes. So looking at each individual bucket, what's the minimum ownership? So Patrick Cantlay has a risk of, his recent form bucket's not good. 1.39% of golfers from that bucket finish inside the top 10. So the success rate for that bucket's not good. And since he touches that number, his min's 1.39. Now, I don't personally like that whatsoever. I just realized this number is the exact same number as this. I'm gonna have to change. No, it's not. Yeah, it is. I'm gonna have to change that to try to figure that out. I think I want mean, probably, not median, but I'll look at it. But yeah, my min and maxes. So DJ 7.69, that's pretty good. But like Webb has 11.68 for his minimum. So his success rate, it's pretty good. Like the chances of him succeeding here are much higher than DJ or Cantlay just based off the buckets. But someone who has a little bit better than him is Daniel Berger. Tyrrell Hatton's tied with him. Sergio Garcia, 11.92. 18.6 is the max. So this is kind of an additional piece that I'm adding to my optimizer because I really want to figure out the correct maximum exposures to put here. Currently, it's just based off a salary, which isn't good enough for me. I'm sure it's not good enough for some of you guys. But as I'm building lineups and going through here, I do want a smarter way of setting my exposures. So if I like a golfer, I'm going to put their maximum. If I don't, I'm going to put their minimum. So like Colin Morikawa, I know a lot of people like him this week. He's most likely going to be 4.62 for me. Same goes with Cameron Smith, 6.06. That's totally fine with me. Berger, 11.92. That's fine. I'm not a huge Berger fan, so I could have this minimum and be okay. But Will Zalatoris is getting 18.84. He might even get 30% because I like Will Zalatoris this week that much more. But that's how I'm going to go about it. How do you guys feel about this? I want to know what your guys' opinion is. Do you like this type of setup? Trying to figure out minimum and maximum ownerships. Coming down to the 6K range, what I'll end up doing, I know you don't see a salary here, but we know these guys are in the 6K range. I actually don't mind some of these max numbers. I usually never want to play anyone more than 10%. And a lot of these guys aren't that much over. But if someone were to be like 18%, like Stuart Sink, I'm not touching that. He can go down to 10%. Because that's... I truly believe you shouldn't play anyone 6K in the 6K range over 10%. So that's my rule. I'm probably going to stick to it and go that way. But for the other guys up here, I'm probably going to either choose between their minimum or the maximum. And that's probably more than you have to care. But let's see here. If I wanted to, let me go minimize this, pull up my... like Will Zalatoris. Let's just do like a Will Zalatoris, Dustin Johnson lineup. I just want to see what that will look like. So I'm going to go ahead and lock them into the optimizer. Run the optimizer and see what pulls out. With all the constraints that I've put, what is the best lineup what will it select? It can't. All of the rules that I have, here, let's do this. Let's put this to 0. Maybe we can't have a recent form 3. Oh, you know what? I have salary adjustments on it. I will have to go into that and change that. So we can go ahead and move that to 1. But you see I had 2 set for 9K, 1 set for 8K. Let's go ahead and remove that. And that actually brings up a good point, or that brings up something that I was talking about yesterday in the preview For salaries, we want at least 1.8 and 1.9. I guess I get that with this lineup. It's actually a pretty decent lineup. I can double check what it's selecting. It's selecting 2 last year 5s. I don't necessarily care for that. If I were to go look at every year dating back, there are no last year 5s in 2020. In 2019, we have 2, but they're at the bottom, 6.5 and 6K. Not great. You can also see what their strokes gained bucket numbers are here. I was going to go over that. That's what I wanted to do after the strokes gained buckets was to come to here, but I totally spaced it. But you can see what some of these buckets are. You don't see many 6s or 5s. You know, like if I were to go and select all of these, we don't see that many 6s and 5s altogether. And in 2020, I don't think we see, okay, we have 1.5. And that was Dylan Fratelli, 6,700. But let's go back to the optimizer. I don't want, so I'm going to go ahead and just put this to 1 and 1. Let's run it again. Okay. So we kind of got the same lineup, and now we're using a 5 and a 6. I don't like that at all. Let's go ahead and put a 0 here. Why? Why do we have to select a last year 6? And it might be the only way we can. So maybe, no, it isn't. Okay. The heck? Well, that's why you can set these constraints on this optimizer. I like that. I like the strokes gained buckets that it chose from. 1.5, 1.1, most of them 3s, 2s, and 1s. And a pretty good balance of every salary. So that's not terrible. If I were to save that, what would be the next one it would select? Because I have to make sure if I were to actually anchor these lineups that it doesn't break anywhere in between. So if the constraints are bad, look at that. That's not a bad lineup either. And by the way, I'm not going to anchor any of my lineups with Dustin Johnson. I don't think that's a smart way to go. Wow. Digging deep with Bill Haas. That's interesting. Okay. Well, I'm not going to continue building lineups. I know that's kind of a frowned upon practice in the DFS industry. But it's interesting nonetheless. I'm going to play around with this tomorrow and hopefully get on some good golfers, get some good lineups. I'm also going to delete these because I don't care to save them. Yeah, I think that's all I have for you guys. I don't think there's anything else to cover. I thought the strategy video was really good. It felt good. Sound off in the comment section. What did you think of it? Did it help? Did it do nothing? Let me know. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I will see you in the review video. All right, bye.